This is your Module 3. In this module, we will cover the dialects, case system, and inflections of Old English. Please read the materials and watch the videos posted for this week. The major dialects of Old English were Northumbrian, Mercian, West Saxon, and Kentish. Northumbrian was spoken in the north of the Thames River. Mercian was spoken in the Midlands. West Saxon was spoken in the south and southwest, and Kentish was spoken in the southeast. These dialects were spoken by Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, who first started the English language in England. Here is the map of the United Kingdom for you to see the dialects of Old English as they were spoken and when and where they were spoken. The most outstanding feature of Old English is the way it takes inflections with the case system. In this module, we will talk about how the case system works in Old English. There are four main grammatical cases in Old English. They are nominative, accusative, genitive, and dative. The nominative is used for the subject, which is the person or thing performing an action. For example, the king ruled the kingdom. Here, the king is the subject. The accusative is used for the direct object, which is the person or thing to which the action is done. For example, an assassin murdered the king. Here, now the king becomes the object. The genitive is used to express possession. For example, the king's reign lasted for 20 years. The dative is used for the indirect object and after prepositions. For example, his subjects owed allegiance to the king. The Old English is famous for its inflections. Now, here, let's look at the pattern of inflections in nouns and determiners in Old English. The pattern of inflections for the noun king in Old English, kuning, together with the corresponding forms of the determiner the, is as follows. We can see here in the table nominative, accusative, genitive, and dative, and how inflections change as the cases change in the singular and plural, which are so different. The phrase the king in Old English would be pronounced as se kuning in the singular nominative case. Now we can see here in the table how the se kuning in Old English, which in modern English means the king, changes according to the case system in the accusative, genitive, or dative cases. We can also see how se kuning changes in the plural form as well when it changes from nominative to accusative and from accusative to genitive and then dative cases. Old English nouns belong to one of the three genders that are masculine, feminine, and neuter. Old English kuning is a masculine noun and illustrates the general pattern of inflections for masculine nouns. For feminine nouns, such as the queen, and neuter nouns, such as wife, which means a woman, the corresponding inflections are as follows. We can see here how the phrase the queen changes according to the case system, again, the same way as the one that we saw before. So, in the nominative case, it will be say queen, which is the queen in the singular form. Now it changes again in accusative, and then again in genitive, and then in dative cases. So when it turns to become plural, that changes again because of gender, because of singularity and plurality, and also because of the case system. And we can see a huge identification of the changes from the singular to plural, from one case to another, and again from one gender to another. The inflections are so obvious here. Also to note here is that the form of the singular determiner changes according to the gender of the noun, while the plural determiners remain the same irrespective of gender. The zero plurals of some present-day English nouns such as deer, fish, and sheep derived from the Old English neuter gender, where only the form of the determiner shows that with the woman is singular, whereas that with the women is plural. Now, let us analyze how adjectives work in Old English. One of the features that distinguish Germanic languages is the use of two sets of inflections for adjectives depending on whether they are preceded by a determiner. For example, the good kings as opposed to good kings, or the kings are good. The pattern of inflections for Old English adjective that are preceded by a determiner is as follows. We can look at the examples here that are singular masculine, feminine, neuter, and plural are all genders. So we have nominative, accusative, genitive, and dative cases. The pattern of inflections for Old English adjectives that are not preceded by a determiner is as follows. We can see another set of examples here where we have singular, singular masculine, feminine, feminine, and neuter plural, masculine and feminine neuter. So, how they are different from one case to another, from nominative to accusative, and from accusative to genitive and dative is interesting. In the case of pronouns, as in present-day English, they may be used in place of noun phrases. Thus, a noun phrase such as the good king can be represented by a pronoun he. Indeed, present-day English pronouns retain many aspects of the case system with different forms used to express subject, object, and possession. For example, he ruled his kingdom until an assassin murdered him. The pronoun system of Old English look like this, and we have examples here in the table. We have singular and plural. We have masculine, feminine, and neuter. We have first person, second person, third person, and so on. And then they change according to the case system, such as the nominative to accusative, and accusative, genitive, and genitive to dative. So we have these changes here in the pattern that we can see how pronoun functions in Old English. In most interesting cases that we can observe in Old English is to see how the inflections work and how they are different, and then they would be in modern English. We can see here that some of the pronouns look like modern English pronouns as well, but some of the others disappeared over time when it changed from Middle English to modern English. Now let's talk about verbs in Old English. Old English verbs have only two tenses that are present and past. The present tense was also used for the future, while the past perfect was signaled by the past tense with the adverb formally, such as I loved, I had loved. However, Old English verbs also have three moods. The indicative mood, which is used for statements of fact. For example, I love him. The imperative mood, which is used for commands. For example, love me. And the subjunctive mood, it is used for hypothetical statements. For example, if I loved you. As in reported speech, for example, he said he loved me. As in the present day English, there are two main types of verbs in Old English: strong verbs and weak verbs. Examples of strong verbs are sing, sang, song, or do, did, done. Weak verbs maintain a regular pattern of inflectional endings. For example, love, loved, loved, like, liked, liked, and so on.